Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. This video is very important because it includes yet again another damning indictment about how the IDF kills its own soldiers in Gaza and in other parts. But this one in particular is a statement from the mother of an Israeli soldier who was kidnapped on the 7th of October, and it's important that you listen to every single detail of it. Now, before I go into the details and what the mother exactly wrote, I previously stated many times about how Israel has massacred its own population on the 7th of October, the Apache helicopters in the festival, and how they released some of these images, how tanks were involved in bombing Israeli civilians in the kibbutzes that Hamas took over on the 7th of October, how several Israeli witnesses who survived those days spoke and what they said about their treatment from Hamas. Funny enough, the good treatment from Hamas, unlike what we've heard, and how most of the Israeli civilians were killed due to crossfire and direct tank shellings from the IDF. I also spoke about how the IDF ran over their own soldiers in Gaza and killed many of them, amongst other details, if you watch some of my previous videos. But today, we have another confirmation from a lady called Sherman Mayan. Sherman Mayan, her son was killed in a tunnel in Gaza after Israel threw gas bombs, poisonous bombs, to assassinate Ahmad al-Ghandour, who is a leading figure that was killed in Kataib al-Qassam, knowing that Israeli soldiers, hostages, were with him. Now listen, I translated 3 of her posts that she has on her Facebook. Her name is Sherman Mayan, and they're all very important. The first one she posted was on Tuesday, and she said exactly the following. The results of the investigation. Ron was indeed murdered, not by Hamas. Think more in the direction of Auschwitz and the showers, but without Nazis and without Hamas as the cause. Not an accidental shooting, not a douche, premeditated murder. Bombs with poisonous gases. Ron was kidnapped because of the criminal negligence of the senior military and damned government officials who gave an order to eliminate him in order to settle a score with some terrorist from Jabalia, in reference to Ahmad al-Ghandour, who is a leading figure in Al-Qassam brigades, who was indeed assassinated. She continues, oh yes, and they also found that he also had several crushed fingers, apparently due to his desperate attempts to get out of the poison grave that the IDF buried him in when he tried to breathe air but only breathed IDF poison. My love, may I die in your place. What a nightmare you went through. Death in terrible agony, and all at the behest of the Israel Defense Forces, which you trusted and appreciated so much, and the government cabinet. There is no future for this country if this is what they did to you after they abandoned you that Shabbat. Shabbat means Saturday. What was the decision if Bibi's son was there in the terrorist tunnel, or Gallant's grandson, or the son of Herzi Halevi? Were they also poisoned with gas bombs? She means, would they have been also poisoned with gas bombs? She adds 2 more posts which are very important as well that I'm just going to read to you. But before I continue, I need to comment here. I stated previously how Israel is a death cult, not only with the evidence that we provided. Satanic death cult, they murder their own civilians. They indoctrinate people, brainwash them with the poison of racism and supremacy, and send them to die for this death and war machine. And this is yet another evidence of how they kill their own soldiers for their own motives. She continued with another post. So following the cover-up of the facts by the IDF and the Ministry of Defense, the stone I placed on my son's grave, she placed the stone criticizing, before I continue, the IDF and the government, saying lots of things about them. A stone that was important to me to be placed on his tombstone as a mother. I paid for it with my own money and received permission from the officer to place it there, was stolen, taken as soon as I left the memorial at the ceremony by a woman named Ushrit from the Ministry of Defense. As they gloss over the fact that he was eliminated in order to kill Ghandour, they think that removing the stone from Ron, she called him Ronchuk as a nickname, from Ron's grave, will clear the facts as they are. Ron was kidnapped because of a monstrous defaulting government and a failed army. Ron was compromised, and we have the worst security minister in the history of the State of Israel and failed intelligence. Ron was sacrificed to eliminate a terrorist who for some reason had been allowed to live for 15 years. At the moment, they are lying that they didn't know that the senior terrorist was surrounded by hostages, even though I was told by a general in the IDF that they knew where Ron was the whole time. And finally, the only thing they left me as his mother, the stone that they agreed to place on his grave and which cost me quite a bit of money and which I paid for from my private pocket, was removed from behind my back as soon as I moved away from the grave by the Ministry of Defense to continue covering up his murder. So again, this is the government and this is the Ministry of Defense covering up, removing incriminating evidence, sacrificing the kidnapped, neglecting the bereaved parents, all because of the lack of hand of the government of destruction that was busy with nonsense for a whole year, with the collection of human garbage that makes it up. In reference to the people leading the country, she says they're human garbage. Instead of taking care of the security of the country's residents, the stone will be returned or there will be no tombstone. And this to usher from the Ministry of Defense, return what you stole from Ron's grave immediately, and this is the last time I agree that you will approach my son's grave. How sad that he is not here to remove you from me and him. She's as if she's speaking to her son that was killed by the IDF. So they clearly killed him knowing he was there. She continued with another post saying, and here is another lie in the mosque of lies. IDF representatives arrived at the homes of the families of the abductees, Sergeant Ron Sherman and the late Corporal Nick Beiser, and informed the families that from the pathology report it is not possible to determine the cause of death of the two who were rescued dead from Hamas captivity. This is what they officially say. She's stating the news arena and the facts. Number one, we were told yesterday that one of the likely possibilities for the death of Ron is that they inhaled toxic gases resulting from IDF bombs. 2. General Rassan Alian told me personally during oath that he and Nitzan alone knew at any given moment the location of Ron and Nick. 3. Is the IDF trying to cover up that to kill Ghandour it was decided to sacrifice Ron, Nick and Alia? 4. Head of the HQ for National Security, Tzachi Hanegbi, said in a meeting with the press that if there were abductees around a senior Hamas official, quote, it would be a heartbreaking dilemma, end quote, in terms of the decision whether to sacrifice them. Again, this woman is confirming that she received reports about the actual death and the facts surrounding it. Clearly, the IDF is covering up the death, and they killed 2 of their own soldiers knowing that they were there in order to kill a Hamas senior. So they're not only committing these massacres against the Gazan people, they're committing massacres against their own soldiers to attempt to get a sign of victory, a trophy for their genocide, for their war crimes in Gaza. This is just another damning indictment about the truth behind this satanic, brutal war machine, death cult of a state, and how it eats its own people, its own soldiers, people who dedicated their life for the military. They bring them up, educate them with indoctrination, fill them up with hate against other people, telling them that they're superior to them, making them machines, inhumane machines, immoral machines, going there to kill people. And still, this is what they do to them when they go and sacrifice their life for the country of Israel. So this is what I wanted to talk to you about, and I will hopefully see you soon in the next video. Take care.